Gritworks, we'd like to call ourselves synthetic data company.
Do we have any other company doing this in India?
Yeah, I don't think in India, and I think 26 will be the year of synthetic data too. My wife thinks we run a Jamtara scam sometimes.
Done podcasts or these conversations with around 10 to 15 people,
Nice.
majorly working into either data or AI in some form. So we have not
Sure.
yet released anything from startup guys, but maybe you would be the first one who will be talking more about the product, specifically Gritworks or whatever the work you guys are doing.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Nice.
A quick introduction from you about your background.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm an engineer. Grew up, born and brought up in Bangalore. And so, like all Bangalore boys, went to Infosys. And like all Bangalore boys who go to Infosys, I got disillusioned really quickly. I became a teacher after that. Was part of a fellowship called Teach for India. So I went in there,
Mhm.
taught kids in a government school for 2 years, grade two, grade eight, and this was early 2011 to 2013, for 2 years. Back then, this whole buzzword of edtech wasn't there as much, right?
Yep.
And there were people who wanted to, do something, but it wasn't as established as it is today. So I came back to Bangalore, worked with Google for some time. We were building products for India.
Okay.
Then continued on that quest, which led me to be part of. I was the first employee at a nonprofit called Mekshala, which we were able to scale across multiple states. This was a nonprofit, so we worked with government schools mainly. So we
Mhm.
did that across multiple states, reached
Yep.
thousands of teachers. Then realized, I'd done enough in the government school space, wanted to understand something in the private school space. So I went and met the founders of Lead. It was a very nice conversation, and I began working with them. I was leading their charter for taking the Lead product into schools, right? These were tier two, three, four cities and towns, and go in there, ensure that schools are actually using the product well. Students are learning, teachers are teaching, did all of that. So all this, I think my whole edtech space must have spent about 10, 11 years there. And I didn't know what else to do in education once I got done with Lead. And that was around the time that the whole chat GPT thing happened. And that's when the engineer bug in me said, hey, why not do something? Because I was always interested. I dabbled a little bit on the product sides. All the companies that I worked were in tech. So I understood tech. And I was always number two at a company, was never leading one. And that's what got me to start Gritworks.
Nice. Why did that shift from Infosys to a teacher?
um, Yeah, because I think, and it's a very interesting, life 180, right? Because
Hmm.
I was doing testing, and I was doing manual testing,
Okay.
and I realized that any 10th grader, 12th grader could also do the same thing, right? So you have to, somebody would give you the test case, you copy paste it here, see if it is working. If it's not working, then raise a bug. It wasn't fun anymore, right?
Hmm.
And I am somebody who doesn't feel happy when things are comfortable, right? So I always jump for the next uncomfortable thing, new thing that is happening. And it wasn't something that I really wanted to dedicate the next few years of my life. There were conversations going on about moving abroad, going on site, doing all of that. But that was like the lucrative carrot on one end, and on the other side there
Yep.
was becoming a government school teacher with like a stipend. And I said, this seems more interesting, so let's just do it, right? So that's what got me to move.
So is this Teach for India private initiative or government initiative?
It is a private initiative, so it's part of a larger worldwide movement called Teach for All. So
Hmm.
it started as Teach for America many, many years ago, I think 25 plus years ago. And in 2009 is when the first batch of Teach for India started, and I was in the third batch. And we didn't know what the future held, none of that, but it was a very interesting space to go into. I love teaching. but I didn't know what it took. But it was an exciting opportunity. So that's what got me to jump.
And then in 2023, was there a specific reason that you chose synthetic data as such, or it's just a random call?
Yeah, I think there are. See, I think when I got started, I didn't know what synthetic data was, right? And to be honest, when I started off as a tester back in the day, there was nothing called synthetic data that was there.
Yep.
It was data that we created on an Excel sheet, copy pasted into something, and said it's working, it's not working, right?
Yep.
And the whole CI/CD pipeline and all of that, they had not matured to a point where it is today. So I didn't know about it. And when I got started, the idea was, can we build something for teachers? And that quickly morphed into nobody is going to pay for it, so let's do something for salespeople. And that quickly morphed into salespeople is great, but no salesperson is going to want to get trained by an AI engine so early in the day. That was the initial feedback that we got. And by the time this was a bootstrap company,
Yep.
it was important to bring in the revenue. So I said, what else is possible? So chatbots are possible. Amazing. So what's possible? RAG is great. And this was early days of RAG where people didn't know. Uh, I mean, when the context windows were so small that, RAG also broke.
Yep.
And that's how the journey started. So we built voice bots, we built WhatsApp bots, we built all sort of bots, phone calling bots, all of those things, and realized that the market was getting commoditized very, very quickly, right? Because every
Right.
Tom, Dick, and Harry was building a bot. The big guys were coming out with these packets where you could anybody could start building their own bot. So what is it that we brought to the table was always under question, right? And that was the call that we took about I would say 8 to 10 months back, where we stepped back and said, okay, let's look at all the different things that are happening. There's agents, and the talk about agents had already started. So agents are happening, and RAG is going on, and all of these things are happening.
Hmm.
Do we jump in headfirst and say we will also build a vertically integrated system? Or do we take a step back and say, what is it that is required for all of these people that we can provide that can actually solve the problem, right? And when we were building products for enterprises, which was part of the services work that we did, um, the question was always, okay, I need a data set to, build this ML model, or I need a data set to fine tune this particular LLM. Where is it that you get it, right? And it
Yep.
was Kaggle or one of these things that you'd go to, but it wasn't, comprehensive. It wasn't useful on day one. It was great for people who would do small hobby projects, but if you had to really scale or build it for an enterprise, that wasn't good enough, right? And that quest led us down the rabbit hole of understanding what synthetic data was. We worked with a partner in the US who we continue to work with, and they helped us understand the scale at which it's currently being used by enterprises, right? And because I think when there's this book called the Mom Test, and if you go and read it, it tells you to validate your idea, right? Ideally, you should never go and pitch your product to your mom because mom will say it's great. But for us, it was a little different. So we would go and pitch about synthetic data to people in India, and people were like, "अरे chat GPT है ना? क्या चाहिए तुम्हें? 10,000 data points चाहिए? हाँ मैं दे दूंगा." That was the sort of conversations that we would have,
Yep.
and that has sort of helped us figure out what our target group is, what our GTM should be, and also with the new DPDPA that has come out,
Yep.
people are a lot more serious about wanting to have this conversation around data and how is it that your and my data can't now be sold on the internet, and
Yes.
it has to really be something that's synthetic in nature, something that's artificial, so that it doesn't curb the creativity and the innovation that companies have, but it can still be done in a way that it is safe and secure and doesn't harm all of us. So yeah, that's the journey.
Just yeah. So suppose that I don't understand anything about what is synthetic data and what are the use cases.
Maybe
Um,
before you answer this question, maybe we can just add on to this. What do you exactly do right now, and what
sure.
Gritworks actually do?
Gritworks, we'd like to call ourselves a synthetic data company. And what we do is we help enterprises who are building AI models or who are testing their AI models do it without any compliance risk, right? So the challenge that we've seen with a lot of these enterprises is that they already have a lot of data, right? If you were to go to a bank and
Yep.
let's say you are helping them automate their loan origination system, right? Where who to give the loan to, who not to give the loan to. Now, in an ideal world, they've been doing this for so long, unless you're a new bank, right? You've
Yep.
been doing this for so long that you already have so many people's data, like thousands and millions people data, where people have either applied for a loan, gotten the loan, or have gotten rejected. So you have all of this data. Now, typically what we've seen is that when you are an enterprise and when you are in the realm of compliance and when you start to see that these things are important, then you can't really go into your database, pick up all of those, PAN cards and Aadhaar cards and all of that that people have submitted to you, right? Or in the case in the US, it could be social security to passports to W-2s to all of that. You can't just go pick it up and start using, it, right? It's against the law. So therefore, what we end up doing is we create data which is man-made, which is artificial, which is as close to reality as possible. So let us say there's a Ullas Kumar and there's a Sudhanshu. So I would maybe create a Sudhanshu Kumar with a different face, with a different social security number, with a different passport number, all of these different things, so that when somebody is building their model, they still can get data that is as close to reality as possible, but it is not your or my data. And the way we do it is that we don't again go pull Sudhanshu's passport, Ullas's passport, try mixing up things and create a Sudhanshu Kumar. But all of this happens programmatically. We have algorithms that actually are able to generate these names and all of that. And I think the thing that we at Gritworks are doing differently is in the larger world today, and if you look at enterprises across, it's one of the largest or the fastest growing sector, right? Which is the idea of synthetic data. But even in that space, a lot of them are doing something called structured data, right? And structured data
Yep.
is data in a database, right? So it's easy to mask, it's easy to redact. You can do all of that, and you
Yep.
have the new set of data. So take your production data, mask it, redact it, and you have something that you can begin to use. But the challenge is that 80 to 90% of enterprise data is all unstructured. So it's documents, it's images, it's conversation, it's
Yep.
text, it's all of this that not many people are really in that space trying to solve that problem. And that's where we step in, telling them that, hey, listen, you are building this great AI model. You don't have the data to do it. How about we come in and we give you 100% safe compliance data that you can then use, and not just give you data that is there in production, but we can help you design that data, right? To say, I want 80% data that is positive. I need 10% that is negative. I need
Yep.
10% where I don't know what it is, but you'll have to figure that out from me. So that could be your test data domain, so that you're testing your model accordingly. And we build positive cases, negative cases. So it could be a crumpled document, it could be a coffee stain document, it could be all of these different types of real world simulations that we can do, so that the model that is getting built can actually be built on as close to reality as possible.
You mentioned about the banking sector example,
Yeah,
and let's say, I mean, what I understand so far about these generation model is that we need at least some kind of training data to
right.
train any generator, maybe either with GAN or with diffusion. We
Yeah,
need some kind of data to generate that image. So,
yeah.
is there some source that we get this data?
Sure. Yeah. So I think what we've realized is that enterprises need predictability,
Yep.
right? So if you go down the route of So do we use GANs? Of course we use GANs, right? But can we just use a GAN as is to generate the sort of data that we need? We can't, right?
Yep.
Because
We
what they
need the
need
ground
is
truth.
they will come back to us and say, I need 100,000 documents that need to look this way. And this is the split that needs to be there. And also what is required is, let us say I give you a photograph, I give you a passport, I give you an SSN, I give you a W-2, I give you, your payslips, I give you your bank statement, all of these things. Now, all of them need to talk to each other, right? All of them need to have the same name. They need to have, if there are transactions that need to, surface. So if it's a 6 month or a year long bank statement, that end amount that is there, or the amount that got credited as earnings, need to sort of show up in your W-2s. So it's a design driven data that people require, and not just random data, right? So that is where using GAN just out of the box doesn't really help us. So what we've been able to do is to uh, build a more deterministic system that uses parts of structured data, so that there's data that can be injected into these things. But there's also a
Yep.
templatization engine that comes in. So there's templatization, there is the structured engine, and all of this then can give you the unlimited volume and variety of data. So we use GANs where there are there is some templating that needs to get done, but we
Yep.
don't just use it for generation.
Right. I assume that whatever the final output is, it should look at least 100% accurate as the source, right?
Yeah, yeah. My wife thinks we run a Jamtara scam sometimes. There are strict legal, documents and agreements that we end up signing with our clients that all of this is safe, and it can be used only in certain type of scenarios. But if you do look at some of our documents, you know, you could think that these people exist, but they don't.
Okay. I think
Yeah,
there was a website, right? This person does not exist.com.
yeah,
Have you seen
yeah.
that?
Long back, yeah. Yes, yes.
So
Yeah,
every time you refresh that website, it generates a new face that does
yeah.
not exist, but it looks like a completely natural human face, kind of.
I
Yeah,
think we've,
those were famous around 2020 to 23, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, like these are the images, but the people don't
That's when
exist.
these, I think, models
Yeah,
got
and
started hyping around.
Stable Diffusion, Mid Journey, they have created very good images around that time when
yeah.
things started and took it, right?
Back in those days, we were so excited about this that we ended up creating storybooks and stuff. It
Oh,
was a lot of fun, and ensuring that the same person's face continued through the story. Those were crazy challenges, but
Yep.
it was a lot of fun using Mid Journey and Stable Diffusion back
So if I talk in general about the clients that you serve, these are majorly those companies who are training their own models at the end, or is it different maybe, or does it include enterprises that do not train but they want synthetic data so that they can outsource it? Is it?
then. So, see, I think if you do look at people creating models, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small group of companies that are actually creating models,
Right.
right?
right.
So what we've seen is either you do end up creating these models, and today, you look at the likes of the OpenAIs and the others, but even in the enterprise space, a lot of them are picking up existing models and fine tuning them. And when
Yep.
they are fine tuning them, they need the data to actually fine tune them, and they can't use real people's data. That's where we come in. Or we also see situations where, let's say, there's a company that's gone to an AWS, or that's gone to an Azure or a GCP, and they've gotten their OCR model, right? And everybody's trying to move from not just OCR but towards document processing, intelligent document
Yep.
processing, etc. So they are in that space, and when they want to pick up something that's off the shelf, it works for a good 75-80% of the cases in most enterprises, right? But if they want to completely automate their systems, they want to be 100% sure that it works, right? So 99%, 98% accuracy is what all of them are looking for, if not 100. So in those cases, they need the data to actually fine tune it. So that's where we step in. Or somebody comes to us and says, I already have my model, everything is done, I'm confident about it, etc. But now I need to test it. Again, I can't test using real people's data, and I don't want to release it into production and then figure out what the loopholes are. So what we end up then therefore providing the data for is for testing. So it's either building your model, fine tuning your model, or testing your model. So in any of these cases, we step into help.
So that means even if the enterprise is not training their own model, and if they plan to utilize some other company's product or maybe model, they need to test that, and
Yes,
for that they need synthetic data.
yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and
And
I have yeah, yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Sure, Ullas. No, no, Ullas, you can. I will
No,
ask.
and it's fascinating, right? Because what we've seen and heard over the last few years has been so there are two different schools of thought, right? There is one school of thought that is saying enterprises have completely adopted AI and life is great and things are amazing and etc etc. And that's the narrative that
yep.
people have to peddle. But there is the other narrative that is like 90% of all AI projects fail and blah blah blah, and AI is set to doom. Did you know where OpenAI got its money from? Did you know where Nvidia got its money from? So it's a it's a these are two camps, right? And people are just generating or creating these stories and posts and all of that to push forward that particular narrative. But what we've
Right.
seen though is that enterprises are very open to using AI. That's what we've been seeing a lot.
Hmm.
There are some who are very traditional, who might still be on mainframes and all of that. So what they are not open to is to, modernize that particular stack. But they're not saying I will not use AI. They're saying I will not modernize that stack because there's a lot of, if I'm an insurer and I have, a transaction happening in real time today, I don't want to be messing around with that. But are there other things that I can do so that my tech stack gets better? And I think that's where we've been seeing a lot of enterprises being open to, uh, you know, uh, try AI. But I think where they seem to sort of and this is common, right? And this is what we've also been hearing is that POCs are great,
Yep.
POCs work, but when they actually go into production, things fail. People are not 100% sure because there's somebody's job on the line or somebody's neck on the line, right? So therefore they
Right.
need to be 100% sure bulletproof product, and when they want to do that, they want to know what could be real world loopholes that are there. And, that's where we talk to them and say, hey, guys, how about we simulate some of those things for you? And then you can be confident about releasing it.
Okay.
It's like building trust for enterprises.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the most, the ones that we work with today are BFSI and healthcare. These are the two sectors that we work with. When we go into things like manufacturing and IoT data and all of that, we've had conversations with people. It's early days for us. We haven't gotten into that space at this
Hmm.
point. But I think anywhere where there is human data, any PII, PHI type of data that is available that needs to be used for some testing or training models, etc. I think that's where we see the highest adoption of synthetic.
Do we have any other company doing this in India?
Yeah, I don't think in India. I mean, I've seen a couple of more startups here trying to build things in the unstructured data space,
Hmm.
trying to, help companies, figure out redaction, all of those things, etc. Um, a lot of synthetic data has been mom and pop sort of stores that have tried to build something, or people have put on Kaggle, and
Right.
people are trying to figure that out. Um, but the space in India as such is very small at this point. I think even some of the larger, enterprises, banks, etc., are still getting used to the idea of synthetic data. And also, I think in India, it's also nice that there are so many government stacks that are available that not everybody has to build everything. right? So there are just services that they tap into, and these service providers are people that need to then make use of this data to build the product, and they just offer the service to people, right? So we've been working with one such organization to provide them with the data so that they can, uh, you know, build their fraud detection model and then, open it up to other banks. But the space in India is quite small.
Okay, how the business model of your startup works basically?
And I think we're very fortunate that we got introduced to this company in the US that we've been working with now for the last year and more. And they've been in the synthetic data space for a very long time, and they understand the space. They've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting work and stuff, but they've been in the structured data space, right? So that's where they've focused on.
Okay.
So with that, what has really helped us achieve is going in as a partner with our unstructured data piece so that it's sold on top of their existing SaaS fee that they charge, so that way it's a easier GTM for us to go into existing enterprises and stuff. So that's one of our channel partners that we work with, where they introduce us to some of the largest banks, healthcare institution, insurance players, etc. And otherwise it's hard to even get meetings with these folks and understand their problem. But because they've been using the structured data for so long, they now see the need for unstructured data, so it becomes a very easy conversation for us.
Right.
And on the other front, which is our direct sales channel, we work with smaller organizations, startups, mid-tier banks, etc. in the US. That is directly through our own sales channel.
Also, when it comes to structured data, I believe most of these tabular data is generally used to train, I think, machine learning models for forecasting, maybe some kind of other
Yeah.
models, right?
LLMs?
Um, yeah, I think what a lot of them have done is, if you sort of look at the space, AI training there is a very, very small sliver. But the largest work, or the largest piece of the work that they all do, is in the test data management space, right? So when somebody has built I mean, it could be a legacy system, it could be any software that people have built, and they
Yep.
need data in their CI/CD pipeline, is where people go in with synthetic data so that it can be used to test the systems. So we've seen a lot of adoption there, which is in the TDM space. There are fewer people who are trying to. If you really look at it, the likes of Scale AI and the likes of the others have so many people sitting and annotating
Annotating. Yep.
data and doing all of that is still the norm, right? Synthetic data is not the norm today. It's something that's growing, but it is still not the norm. So I think it's a market creation space that we are in. So it will take us more time to just get people to see the value in using synthetic.
What do you think of automating these AI annotation tasks? I think I was working on YOLO models in 2023, and I think there was one tool called as RoboFlow for that,
Mhm,
and it has some model for automatic annotation for objects
mhm,
in
mhm,
2023. I assume that in last 2 years it
mhm.
must have grown to some extent.
Yeah, it has grown to some extent, but what we've seen two things happen, right? The space where people really need to annotate manually, which is could be images, could be videos, could be all of that. There is some element of automation happening, but I think
Hmm.
manual annotation is still the key, right? And even the recent Netflix movie that is there, Human in the Loop, is about that,
Yep.
right? So um, it is still the norm, and manual work is what is happening there. But what we're seeing on the and we are not in that space, right? Because
Yep.
you know I think a lot of investment needs to go in there, and it's a very, very different market. So we are not in that space. What we are is in the space of documents, ID cards, images, these sort of things, which is all related to strong business case, right? So we are the boring guys
Right.
in a way, right? Which is we do things that nobody wants to do. But this is what people really need though at this point in time. So
Yep.
what in our space, what we're seeing is a lot of automation that's happening on OCR, IDP. That is where the world is sort of moving. And even when it comes to annotations happening per se, um, not many people are waiting for documents to be annotated anymore, right? I think that was maybe 2 years ago or 3 years
Right.
ago, but not many people are really doing that. I think there's enough automation that has come in that people are not really spending effort and time.
So, if I have to do this boring task and make some money out of it, what would be the best way to start?
Um, yeah, I don't know if you'll make money out of it because I'm still in that quest, right? So it's not like I've made a truckload of money and now I'm here to give GAN. What I can share um, is insights from our journey and
Yeah.
what has been some of our learnings, right? Um, I think um, I think one key learning for us has been do what it takes to solve the problem, right? Because my co-founder
Hmm.
and I haven't spoken about him for the last 30 minutes now. So Darshil is my co-founder. Darshil is the
Okay.
CTO and co-founder at Gritworks. And he and I have this uh, very interesting chemistry because I think he's part CEO, part CTO in his, or actually he's part CBO, business officer, and CTO in his way of thinking. I am part CPO, the product guy, as well as the CEO, because when I look at something, I'm like, wow, we need to build something so amazing, so groundbreaking that we should become a $1 billion company just based on the product that we build and all of that. That's the mindset with which I always go into conversations. But Darshil is more pragmatic that way, right? And he's like,
Yep.
hey, what is it that they need to solve, and how do we really need to solve it? And what we've been able to discover over over these last 10 months to 12 months has been that I think you don't really need to build a new model or build a new algorithm every day, right? I think
Right.
a lot of these businesses need something that is tangible, that is deterministic, that they can trust today so that they can build trust in the AI for the future, right? So I think if you are able to identify workflows that that are simple but still are the biggest cause of worry for the company, right? So if you do look at underwriting or loan origination for banks in the US,
Yep.
that is their highest revenue generator, right? Because that's how they make their money. But they do end up spending a lot of time in manual effort to solve that particular problem. So they need some automation to come in there. And automation 10 years ago was outsourcing it, right? But automation today is everybody needs to have an AI mandate, everybody needs to do something, and they're all scampering and figuring things out, right? So if
Yep.
you go in there, understand their problem and solve that problem for them, which is if you go in there and say, I have this amazing platform that can do anything and everything for you, it doesn't solve their problem. Their requirement is, I need 100,000 synthetic loan dockets. Can you give that to me? Right. So I think
Yep.
if you start to identify the business pain and solve the problem there, I think the product will eventually get built. And that's the mindset which even we are going in there to say, can we repeatedly or how do we achieve product market fit, right? So if we can do the same solution for 10 different banks and solve the problem for these guys, then we know that there is some product that is ready to be scaled, and then can we build the underlying tech there? Because I think if you go in from a tech first standpoint and say, I can build this, I can just create synthetic data, people are not willing to buy it. So you'll have to come in from the business first stand.
So rather than trying to build a very cool product, just try to build something that solves the business problems first.
It's something that I
That
tell myself every day. True.
What do you think of robotics sector? Because I was attending a meet a few days back, and that was with a robotics company, and they mentioned that there is less to no availability of simulation data that they can train on. And I think a few days back, someone released. I think it's from Bangalore itself. They released
Hmm.
some 1 lakh kind of unstructured videos of factory workers. So
Hmm.
those were real videos at the end.
Hmm. Hmm.
So is this the particular sector which is growing fast? I believe?
Yeah, if you look at the larger chatter and where the money is going, even the big players are all putting in the money into robotics.
Yep.
Boston Dynamics is talking to Google, and all of those
Right.
conversations, and Elon Musk is talking about robots taking over the world and all of those things, right? So I think there is a big market out there. Would I know about it today? No, I don't, because that's not something that we've really dabbled into. Also, the reason being, it's a choice of who needs it for what, right? So if there is somebody who's willing to open source or share these 1 lakh videos, and there are more such videos that are being put out
Yep.
there. Or if companies like Boston Dynamics and the others are able to crack deals with the likes of a Foxconn. I don't know if that's happened, but if they do that, and if they can place their robots there, and the robots learn, and it's their systems that they're figuring out how the learning is happening. I think it's a better way of doing that, and I think companies are more open to experiment, figure things out there. Is there a market for this type of unstructured data? I'm sure there is. We haven't gotten into it because of also the complexity that is involved in generating this type of data, right? So
Right.
we were talking to a bank once, and um, we were talking to them about our product, right? And they were solving a different problem. And their problem was, they're a large multinational bank. They have offices around the world. Um, they have housekeeping teams, in all of these banks. And banks, though, people do go to work and sit there and work.
Right.
So their conference rooms, as well as their pods, need to be cleaned, need to be, water and all of these things need to get replenished every after every meeting, or
Yep.
once every day, or whatever their routine is, right? Now they one needed to check if things were happening properly. Two, they were wanting to check if it was required to be done every day, whether people were doing it. And it was also like a cost cutting measure for them to say, do I send in this person to do a quality check every time, or is there a way that we can build a model that understands this, right? So for them, what they wanted was, in phase one, they wanted 100,000 images of conference rooms with different types of rooms, with different types of tables, chairs, all of those different things. And in phase two, they actually wanted some of the videos that people are cleaning things, doing things, etc. And um, and then trying to see if they can automate some of these things, cost cutting, optimization, all of that. It was an exciting thing to do. I was jumping and said, this is great. We should build a model. We should do all of these things. But the pragmatist in the room came in and said, does this really work for us? Right. And then we said no to it. So I do think uh, there could be a lot of potential for it, but it is going to be an expensive proposition to begin with.
So was this for like generating a huge data set to train a certain model to detect if something is being done or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks interesting.
It's a very interesting problem statement. And if you hear the numbers, they were spending millions, right? And they wanted to, even if it was like a 10 to 15% or a 20% saving in that, that would have meant hundreds of millions to
So,
a few million at least. So they
Yep.
were very
so,
excited about doing this. We didn't have a few million to build that model, so we said sorry.
so they
Right.
were spending millions to only check that the floors are being cleaned or what?
Whether the conference rooms are, no, also understand the scale, right? So if you are in 30 different countries,
Yeah.
hundreds
Oh,
of offices, multi floors, thousands of conference
mm,
rooms. So people actually going in there checking on things. It is a human intensive effort which leads to people paying money.
So,
right.
what type of readiness do you see when you look for clients? I mean, is there anything specific that you need that the client must be doing in order to pitch to them?
Um, See, I think when we go in with our channel partner, it's quite straightforward, right? They're already primed and they have a problem, and we go in and help them solve it. But when we are looking at going in directly to some of these organizations,
Hmm.
the one thing that we look for always is how important is this problem for them, right? Whether this is a small scale pilot or an activity that is happening, what is the how invested is the leadership in terms of making this successful or not? And then typically when we are on these discovery calls with people, it is always about, hey, we've built this OCR system, or we've built this model, or we are in the process of building this model, and I'm
Okay.
struggling to find this data. So the ask becomes very, very clear, even upfront, because they've hit a wall, and they need to solve that immediately. And the CISO or the CIO in the company has not allowed them to use their internal data, and now they're looking for data that they can validate their models with. So that's where we go.
I think
Okay.
when it comes to maybe more of a governance side, or maybe ethics, AI ethics that we talk about, uh,
Mhm.
is there any specific role of a government, or maybe especially if I talk about Indian government, or what, any other, what role do they play in this journey?
Yeah, so I was fortunate to be to be in the room with the secretary S. Krishnan of METI, right? And it was a couple of months back, and DPDPA was out, and everybody was excited about using it, etc.
Yep.
And I did ask him this question around synthetic data, making it more, or I think mandating would be a strong word, but at least encouraging people to start using synthetic data. And his point of view was, the way we've built this particular act is in such a way that this is going to be a natural next step for companies to do, right? So if they can't use data, if they need to get permission, although they have the data, but if they need to reuse that data for other work, and if they still need to get permission from you and me, it is going to be a long process, an arduous process. So there, obviously, people will move towards synthetic data, is what his point of view was. So I think the government is quite positive and open to it. They haven't put it down in any act or regulation today, but I think this is the direction in which they're headed. Singapore has done something very interesting. You should check more about the work that they're doing. I think they've been encouraging people to use synthetic data a lot, right? So that's one country that's super progressive in terms of their data adoption at this.
You have
Uh,
talked about one act. What was it?
It's called the Digital Personal Data Protection Act,
yep.
right? And it was out a few years ago, and everybody was talking about it, but nobody really knew what to do about it. It was something that the government had put out. But in November, the government actually came out with the rules and regulations that are there. So it lays out a very strong framework which says who can use what data. There are certain data, fiduciaries that are there. In a company, if you're using data, there are certain roles that you need to create in terms of who's managing this data. If you're getting services from another company, then there are these systems and rules that they have created. And I think what they've gone on to do more specifically and intently is for younger kids, people below 18, how does the parent get involved? What sort of data gets shared? What sort of data doesn't get shared? I think a lot of this has been spelled out nicely in the DPDPA. There are more conversations that are happening right now. Lawyers and IP lawyers are all out there educating startups and large enterprises to figure this out. We still have about 18 months before everything gets enacted. There are some things that have started right away, but for people to comply and do everything, there is about 18 months time that is.
Oh, that's interesting.
What is the most weirdest or fascinating thing about this industry of synthetic data? Maybe ironical, you can say.
It's a loop that we will get into at some point, right? Which is we are generating synthetic data
Yep,
to train an AI model,
to generate more data.
and that AI model will generate more data, which then gets used to train it back again. So it will end up in some sort of a loop, right? And and that is where we are also putting in our heads right now to think, one, how do you even break that loop? And when do we get into a loop like that? I think that's a weird thing. It's not something that's happening right away, but in some of our workflows it's happening, right? Which is if I send you a AI generated document and you send it back to an AI and say, give me points, bullet points out of it, and then somebody else takes those bullet points and generates a document out of it. So I think it's our workflows that we're seeing some of those challenges in today. But I think in the future, um, I don't think synthetic data as we see today, which is just changing names or just creating these documents, etc., is going to be the norm, right? I think there will be a sea change in the way this is going to get used, if at all, to train models, but also to, in terms of generation of this, in terms of usage of this. I think that will get how do I say this? That'll mature over time. I think we are too early to predict what will happen, but I think we will see some maturity coming in the next few years for sure.
Yeah, I think we will be seeing a lot of AI governance and all getting involved because
Yep.
the way things are moving, like uh, Gemini, Banana Pro, like things are become very inseparable in terms of
Yeah,
creativeness, that what's like real and what's fake. So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
What
that
do you
will
think
be
of Nano Banana?
yeah.
Is it,
uh,
do you consider it in some form as your competitor?
yeah, I think it is. Um, I think as a technology, it's phenomenal,
Yep.
right? I think what they've been able to do is mind blowing. What we were able to do a couple of years ago to what we've gotten to now. I mean, that Will Smith eating spaghetti, just that
Yes,
evolution
yes.
that we've seen, I think is just phenomenal. And I think what Nano Banana has been able to do is to sort of crack the holy grail of text inside the image, right? And I think
Yep.
that was close to impossible even a few months ago. And I think that is
Right.
amazing, right? Um, so what does that mean for us, right? What that means for us is, will we use Nano Banana? Yes, we will use Nano Banana, right? If there are certain workflows that require it, etc., we could use Nano Banana. What it sort of now does, it sort of sifts the market, right? So the market itself is getting cleared in a way. So people who wanted to use synthetic data didn't have, let's say if you're in India, and I'm making a generic statement here, is that testing is an afterthought for most of us here, right? And
Right.
when we have to test here, typically what happens is, somebody needs to get some data, we put it in, we test it, and we're like, great job, product is working, let's take it forward, right? That itself needs to evolve in the Indian ecosystem, in the Indian space, right? With vibe coding coming in, life is even more crazier there, right? So testing happens on customers more than with developers anymore. It's very much outsourced to customers now to test. So what we are seeing is that people who want to test and people who want to test in small quantities, right?
Yep.
So if they need 10 documents, if they need maybe 100 documents, Nano Banana is the way to go, right?
Okay.
Why would they come
Right.
to us? It doesn't make sense. You need to pay for per document, you need to do all of those different things. There might be a platform fee. Why would you want to do that? You will not come to us.
Right.
So what that means for us is that that is not our market anymore, right? But when you do look at enterprises, enterprises cannot just test or use Nano Banana to integrate things into their pipelines. One, because of determinism. They want a specific thing or a perfect thing to be in a particular way. That is one. Two is speed, because I think for GANs to maybe do things in milliseconds uh, is going to take some time and a lot more
Right.
compute and a lot more evolution there.
Right.
So will that not happen? I will never go out and say that, because I think what we've seen in the last 2 years has been revolutionary. That will this happen in milliseconds? Maybe yes, right? So it will happen in the next few years. But also there's a cost element that comes into this, right? So if you are generating 100,000 of these documents, you don't want to be paying $100,000 to be doing
Right.
it, right? So you
Right.
need it at a much more lower price so that you will then be able to. What you need is, for an enterprise, what they need is sort of unlimited volume, and they need unlimited variety. That is when they're happy with testing their systems fully and training their systems fully, and that's where we go in and support them. So to answer your question, competition, they've been helpful in identifying our customer base for us much
Yep.
better. So um, uh, it's a self selection chain that has happened for us, which is a great thing.
Yeah, that's
Which sector do you think should not use synthetic data?
You already have non-PII data, or if you already have data that is um,
Widely available in something.
no, I mean, if you're a large enterprise, so let's say if you're a car manufacturer, right,
Okay.
and you have gotten consent from all of your users to say that you will get their driving data, you will get their maybe their ADAS data, you will get all of this data already from them. I don't see a need for them to use synthetic data, right? Because they already have enough production data that's there. What they um, what they might not want to do is to use your name and my name, which I'm sure they will be smart enough not to. And I don't think it's
Yep.
required either. But in these sort of cases, I don't think it's really required. But what could be required even in a situation there is, let's say I'm a car manufacturer and I have maybe 1 million hours of data already with me,
Yep.
driving data across. But if I need to know when is it that an accident happens, um, I have to go through 1 million hours of data, then maybe start to remove certain data from there, subset that particular data, and
Yep.
then use it in production. But if I am building a model where it is meant to solve or predict a certain thing, and I need data that is more concentrated, that is accurate, that just says this X leads to Y, or that causation is apparent there, and that's what I need. Then I think they might use synthetic data, because they don't want to go through all of this millions of hours of data and then get something out of it. That's when they might come to us. But otherwise, I don't see a need for them to really use it.
So should I assume that majorly if we want to work on PII data, we generally choose synthetic data over other?
I think
Do you,
that's the lens that we've used, and at least the industry is also using right now.
Right.
in terms of usability of data. So even information security officers and all of them, when data is so let's say if you are in a factory and there's some sensor and it's just that sensor data that's being used,
Yep.
I don't think they have a problem. They have a problem if you use it the right way, right? They're open to it. But if that suddenly has people's data and other things that come in, that's when you're in shaky ground, and that's where synthetic.
Right. Do you know about AI Kosh?
Yes, yes,
So,
and we
so,
spoke at length with the secretary on it. Yeah,
so do you see this in future that we will have synthetic data on that platform?
he was open to the idea.
He was open to this idea. So, yeah, is there any platform that has that synthetic data available at a scale on open source basis? Maybe.
Yeah, not really. I think Kaggle has. I think everybody goes to Kaggle. Kaggle has some things. A lot of it is still real data, not as much synthetic. There are
Right.
some libraries, or there are some data sets even on Kaggle that are synthetic. That these could be government initiatives that are there. The U.S. government, the Singapore government, all of these
Yep.
guys have created data sets that are synthetic that could be used for, could be driver's licenses, could be passports, could be certain things that they've actually generated these things. So they are available today, but not at a scale that, there's no platform which is purely synthetic data.
Right. Because I visited AI Coach, I think, around 2 months back. And
Mhm.
I was just curious because they were mentioning that we have this much data available. You should use these data for maybe training a model or
Yeah,
some
yeah,
insights.
yeah.
And, that's how I remember that. Maybe
And
I
it's a really cool initiative here. I think we talk about our human capital and we
Mhm.
talk about all of this data that we have and
Right.
us being able to produce, create all of this data. I think there is a big opportunity that's also out there that can be tapped into with an AI course. Um, I think but I think today, at least when I look at AI coach, it's a lot more academic in nature
Yep.
when it comes to who really uses it. But I think when there are use cases and data sets that come out which are more enterprise, commercially oriented, etc., I think that's where it could become more relevant for us.
I think there were multiple enterprises submitting in some form of data on the platform, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, the government is putting in a lot of effort on AI coach right now. So I think what it is today to what it will be a year from now, I think will be quite uh, significantly different.
I think it's a good initiative. I have just checked the website. Looks cool as well. I'm gonna
Yeah,
test out some data sets later.
I think there's one
very cool.
competition happening. So don't you remember you shared that message some days ago?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I guess we were not. I was not able to participate.
Yeah. Maybe I'll end this conversation with a kind of a silly question. Which AI product do you use these days on personal level?
I think the usual suspects are there.
Yep. Note taking
So
platforms, kind of.
I think Read AI is my note-taking platform. Uh, Now I'm reconsidering, do I really need to pay them or should I just do Google and Gemini and record conversations? So that's one thing. I use I was a big user of Claude till at least till 5.2 came out,
Okay.
and I would use it every day for everything. I think the projects feature was great. All of that was
Yes.
amazing. So
Yes.
I absolutely enjoyed using Claude. But these days, I do use it, but ChatGPT has taken on more center stage for me. It still hallucinates sometimes and irritates like crazy, but I really like 5.2 right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Um, I use Notebook LM quite a bit.
Yes.
Really helpful.
I
I use
Uh,
it a
I
lot.
still have not got a clear idea of how to
how to use
use
Notebook
it
LM.
properly.
It has
It's
everything you need.
And and the thing is, you should just YouTube. how to use Notebook LM, and the number of videos that are there is just insane. Maybe you should spend some time, and it's a great,
Yeah,
great tool to use.
Okay.
I use Gamma to
slide
create
generation.
slide decks. It's a hit or miss many times, um, but I still do use it. I think these are my sort of go-to ones for now.
What about you, Sudhanshu? I didn't ask it.
For me, it's always ChatGPT, Gemini. I don't prefer anything else. Like, I have both the Pro models for them, 5.2 and Gemini Pro. And currently, Gemini for the past 6 months, it has been doing like
Yep.
when it comes to
Hmm.
thinking or building any flow for anything, also for YouTube research and also Gemini takes a leap. And for work, I think ChatGPT is good until you don't like give it a lot of context and start messaging in a single thread. If you keep
Ah.
creating new threads, give it a proper context. It's best.
Maybe if you remember, Ullas, I think 2023 was all about these RAG architectures and basic chatbots, as you mentioned.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
in 24 and somewhere in 25, it started hype
Agents.
about agents.
Yeah, I think agents will mature in 26.
Okay.
That's one. For me, sorry, in terms of also the tools that you are asking, I think Replit is my
Yep.
go-to. I use a lot of Replit. Um,
Mhm.
I see these coding agents becoming, much better in
Right.
26 for sure. And I think 26 will be the year of synthetic data too. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. let's let's go for synthetic data in 26.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think what I think is in 2026 we'll have more consumer AI applications, because I think in 2025 all the
Hmm.
AI solutions that we have seen so far is more of a developer friendly
Hmm.
tools or
Hmm.
solutions
Hmm.
than directly non built for non technical users, I believe.
Hmm. Hmm.
So either they are somehow related to coding, or
Yeah.
somehow something to do with the developer kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
think in
Yeah.
2026 we'll see more and more tools which are not kind of not related to developer as such, but more consumer centric.
Yeah,
What
I
do you think?
think I would I would second that. But what I would say is I'm not so gung ho about new tools coming in,
Okay.
but I think the likes of ChatGPT and Claude, because of their distribution, will win by adding more things. So ChatGPT
Health
now does
more.
shopping, and it does health, and it does teaching, and it does all of this. So I think that general purpose agent, which sort of is there push towards AGI in some way in the future. I
Yep.
think this is how they might, and I think that might become more popular right now. But again, it's a little bit of a discovery problem also. I know so many ChatGPT Pro users pay $20 a month, but
Yep.
don't know that there's a shopping agent that's available.
Yep.
So I think that
Right.
discovery becomes a little bit of a challenge, but also the way they've been able to integrate like Figma and other tools
Photoshop as
into
well. Yeah.
ChatGPT, I think that could be a very interesting. I think that's where the consumer would come in my view,
Mm.
um, and I hope we don't get to a point of customer fatigue where people are not willing to pay for AI. I think that could be another, red flag for at least companies that are building consumer-oriented AI, which is, if these big guys are giving it free, why do I need to pay you money? Or
Right.
I'm willing to pay $20, but nothing more than that. So there could be those artificial ceilings that get created.
Do you have any examples of weird client demands in terms of synthetic data?
So I'll tell you why it's weird and funny in its own way, right? Um, so there's this organization that helps um, veterans in the US, right? But they're building models and doing a lot of interesting things. But
Right.
um, when they were sharing their requirements, etc., with us, first we couldn't see those documents because we weren't allowed to see those documents because we are Indian citizens and we don't have access to it.
Right.
Two, you can't access it anywhere else outside of the US. Three, because I don't have the permissions to actually see this document. The gentleman actually showed us a document, which was dear, black ink, black mark, black mark, black mark, black mark, black mark. The entire document was just black and redacted completely. And the plan is we build synthetic data there. And we're like, how? How do we even get started off with this, right? So it's going to be a very, very interesting challenge that we embark on soon.
So is it the case like every time we have to generate something based on client requirements, the client needs to have some data of that form at least, right?
So they need to know what they want to generate.
Right.
On our platform, they can come in and design that data. They can say uh, it could be a document, so they decide what goes where, what sort of data needs to come into it, etc. So they define and design all of those things. But it's different for each client because each of their workflows are different. So what we have is a platform where people can come in